Imagine this: the most elite modern soldiers, armed with the latest technology, are marching across the open steppe. Suddenly, a dust cloud rises on the horizon. Within moments, 100,000 horsemen thunder toward them, arrows whistling through the air. Here's the mind-blowing question: could Genghis Khan's medieval warriors actually destroy a modern army? The answer will shock you. Most people think it's obvious: modern weapons should win. But what happens next will change everything you thought you knew about warfare. Scene 1. The legend of the unstoppable horde. What made Genghis Khan's army so terrifying? Was it their weapons, their horses, or something else? Here's what most history books don't tell you. The Mongols weren't just warriors, they were psychological masterminds. Their most powerful weapon wasn't the bow or the sword, it was fear. Mongol scouts would appear on the edges of cities, spreading rumors of unstoppable destruction. Entire populations would surrender before a single arrow was fired. Imagine if a modern army faced an enemy that could collapse their morale before the battle even began. But it gets even crazier. Genghis Khan's warriors moved faster than any army in history, up to 100 miles a day. With no supply lines and no base camps, they struck like lightning, disappearing before their enemies could react. Modern logistics, with all their trucks and airdrops, can't even come close to this level of mobility. But how did they do it? And what was the secret code that made this possible? The answer is hidden in a single word, and it's coming up next. Scene 2. The secret code that changed warfare. Here it is. TUMEN. Most people have never heard this word, but it's the key to understanding the Mongol war machine. A tumen was a unit of exactly 10,000 men, organized with mathematical precision. Now, you might be asking, so what? Here's the twist. The entire Mongol army was built from these blocks, scaled up and down with lightning speed. Orders were relayed instantly through an ancient version of radio signals, flags, drums, and horns. But wait, there's more. Mongol generals could split and recombine their forces mid-battle, confusing and overwhelming their enemies. Imagine US Marines suddenly facing an enemy that seems to multiply and vanish at will. Even the most advanced satellite surveillance would struggle to keep up with this kind of battlefield chaos. What's even more shocking, modern military theorists admit that the Mongol system of command and control was, in some ways, more flexible than the rigid hierarchies of today's armies. This one discovery turned history upside down. But just how deadly were these tactics? What happens when Mongol cunning meets modern firepower? The answer will make your jaw drop. Scene 3. Weaponry showdown. Bows vs. bullets. Let's compare the weapons head to head. You're probably thinking, come on, a medieval bow can't match a modern rifle. But here's what's crazy. The Mongol composite bow was a technological marvel, launching arrows up to 350 yards, sometimes farther than a modern assault rifle's effective range. And here's the mind-bending part. Mongol horse archers could shoot with deadly accuracy while riding at full gallop, unleashing up to 6 arrows every 10 seconds. Try hitting a moving target with a modern firearm while bouncing on horseback. Almost impossible. In fact, historians have tested this. The Mongols' hit rate was so high, entire enemy formations would scatter before the first charge even arrived. But the plot thickens. The Mongols didn't just rely on their bows. They were masters of siege warfare, using early gunpowder weapons, psychological tricks, and biological attacks that would make even modern soldiers shudder. Still think modern tech always wins. Just wait until you hear about the Mongols' most terrifying secret weapon. It was banned for centuries, and you've probably never heard of it. Scene 4. The weapon that changed the world. What was this forbidden weapon? Here's the shocking answer: biological warfare. The Mongols are believed to have catapulted plague-infected corpses over city walls, the first recorded use of bioweapons in history. Imagine being a modern soldier with all your body armor and gadgets, facing an invisible enemy that kills without warning. But here's what they didn't tell you. The psychological impact of these attacks was even deadlier. Cities would surrender in terror, armies would flee, and the Mongols barely had to fight. Experts were baffled by the scale of these victories. This wasn't just brute force, it was psychological warfare on a level that even today's military strategists struggle to understand. So, could a modern army handle this kind of threat? The truth is, most militaries are still vulnerable to unconventional attacks, from cyber warfare to pandemics. The Mongols were centuries ahead of their time. But wait, the Mongols' greatest weapon still hasn't been revealed. What if I told you it wasn't a weapon at all, but a way of thinking that rewrote the rules of war? Coming up next, the mind of Genghis Khan. Scene 5. The psychology of conquest. Here's the real secret most people miss. Genghis Khan wasn't just a general, he was a master psychologist. His army wasn't just disciplined, it was loyal beyond belief. Betrayal meant instant death, but loyalty brought unimaginable rewards. The Mongols even promoted soldiers from enemy ranks if they proved their worth. Picture a modern army where defectors could rise to the top overnight. Total chaos, right? But Genghis Khan's genius went deeper. He used spies, double agents, and fake retreats to lure enemies into traps. In one legendary battle, the Mongols pretended to flee in terror, only to ambush their pursuers days later. It worked almost every time. Most modern commanders would fall for it, too, because the human brain is still wired to chase a retreating enemy. Here's what's wild. The Mongols understood human psychology so well, could manipulate entire nations. Modern armies are trained to fight, but how many are trained to think like their enemies? So, what would happen if the ultimate Mongol mind games collided with modern military training? The answer is coming, and it might just change the way you see history. Scene 6. The battle that never was simulation showdown. Let's set the stage. Imagine a virtual battlefield. On one side, a modern infantry unit, night vision, drones, rifles. On the other, a Mongol Tumen, horse archers, psychological warfare, and ancient strategies. Who wins? You might be shocked to learn that military simulations have tested this exact scenario. The results, not what you'd expect. In open terrain, Mongol tactics, hit and run, feigned retreats, night raids caused massive disruption to modern formations. Supply lines were cut, communications jammed, and morale plummeted. The Mongols exploited every weakness, vanishing before the modern army could retaliate. But here's the twist. When the two forces finally clashed head-on, modern firepower had the upper hand briefly, until the Mongols did what they always did: disappear, regroup, and attack from another angle. Attrition, not annihilation, was their real weapon. Even in the age of satellites, experts say, the Mongols' decentralized command, speed, and unpredictability would wreak havoc on modern forces. The real story is far more incredible than any Hollywood movie. But what if the Mongols had today's technology? This is where things get truly unbelievable. Don't blink, you won't believe what happens next. Scene 7. Genghis Khan with modern tech. The ultimate what if. Let's flip the script. Imagine Genghis Khan commanding drones, tanks, and cyber warfare units. Insane, right? Most people have never even considered this, but military historians have. They argue that the Mongol mindset, adaptability, boldness, psychological mastery would make them the most dangerous modern commanders alive. But here's what's crazy. Even without modern tech, the Mongols used the latest innovations of their time: gunpowder, siege engines, even early rockets. They adapted instantly, absorbing enemy technologies and turning them against their foes. It's a lesson most modern armies still struggle to learn. So, the ultimate plot twist: modern soldiers have better weapons, but the Mongols had better adaptability. In a world where technology changes overnight, that might be the most important weapon of all. But the story doesn't end here. What can we learn from this clash of eras? The answer has life-changing implications, and it's coming up next. Scene 8. What history TEACHES. The final revelation. Here's the final, mind-blowing secret. The greatest armies aren't the ones with the best weapons, but the ones with the best minds. Genghis Khan's legacy isn't just conquest, it's reinvention, creativity, and understanding the enemy better than they understand themselves. Most people don't realize that the Mongols built one of the most tolerant, innovative empires in history, allowing religious freedom, promoting science, and connecting East and West. Their real victory wasn't on the battlefield, but in creating a world where ideas could spread like wildfire. So, would Genghis Khan's army destroy modern soldiers? In a straight-up fight, maybe not. But in the war of ideas, adaptability, and psychological warfare, the Mongols would change the game. So here's my challenge to you. If you were a modern general facing the Mongol horde, what would you do? Drop your answer in the comments. Let's see who comes up with the most creative strategy. And if this blew your mind, share it with a friend who thinks they know military history. Trust me, they won't believe it. But wait, there's one more twist. The Mongols aren't just ancient history. Their lessons are shaping the future of warfare right now. Want to know how? Subscribe, because the next episode will reveal the hidden Mongol secrets behind today's most advanced military strategies. You won't want to miss it. This was Viral Educator, bringing you the hidden truths that change everything we thought we knew. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and remember, sometimes the past holds the biggest secrets of all.